Hi and welcome to The Print. I'm Praveen Swami. I'm a contributing editor and I'm joined today by General H.S. Panag, who among the very many other distinctions he wears, such as having been Chief of India's Northern Army, Lieutenant General Panag is also a contributor to The Print. I'm sure many of you have been following his articles with interest over the years. And I particularly will say I get along with General Panag very well. Because like me, he's not a diplomat. He calls things what they are. And while that's sometimes very unpleasant to hear or shakes up some of our assumptions, I always come away from a conversation a little bit wiser and better informed than I was at the beginning. So I'll start right away where we are, General Panag, with the crisis that's begun after Pahalgam. Yesterday night, the Ministry of External Affairs briefed journalists saying that they would consider some measures like what they describe as placing the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance or expelling diplomats. In your professional military opinion, are these enough to re-establish deterrence? That is to convince the Pakistan military that they cannot risk terrorism? Or will some form of kinetic action eventually be needed to bring that lesson home to the generals in Rawalpindi?
Praveen, while these measures are required and a review of the Indus Water Treaty in any case was long overdue, and Pakistan is perpetrating terrorism in J&K and earlier in India, hinterland of India also. So it makes sense that we also use the leverage of water. But this leverage is in reality very limited in the sense that it is not possible to harness the waters and utilize them for irrigation purposes or anything. Yes, you can construct dams, but those will take years to be made. And so, yes, it's a symbolic gesture, but in reality, it doesn't mean anything very much. Other diplomatic actions and all are all symbolic. Withdrawal of defense advisors, etc., are all symbolic. Cancellation of visas and all are all symbolic actions. But if we have to seek retribution from Pakistan and we want to re-establish our punitive deterrent that we can punish you if you do something in Jammu and Kashmir. We have exercised strategic restraint for the last 36 years, barring two actions or barring covert actions that were taken across the LAC earlier, or covert actions in Pakistan hinterland to which we are not privy. Overt actions have been the surgical strikes of 2016, that is the Special Forces raid, and later the Balakot. So now something substantial has to be done, because what should be our political aim? That Pakistan should be deterred from perpetrating terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir. If this be our political aim, we have tried all smaller actions, we have tried diplomacy, we have tried international opinion. Now, something has to be done to punish it in a manner that it ceases to do what it is doing.
So let me try and break that down for our viewers and what kinetic action might be and what possibly the dilemmas policymakers are encountering right now. So Pulwama was, of course, a great, and the airstrikes on Balakot were a great public relations success for the government. But the actual damage caused in Pakistan was quite minimal. The Air Force did not end up hitting the targets that they were intended to hit. And Pakistan, moreover, responded by shooting down an Indian plane and bombing the periphery of the brigade headquarters in Rajouri. So it all escalated. We saw a period of peace after that and some back-channel diplomacy. But would a short attack of that kind be enough to actually deter Pakistan from continuing with terrorism, or is something more needed?
I don't think a surgical strike or a limited number of airstrikes would deter Pakistan. It has got the wherewithal to act in a quid pro quo manner. So it will the deterrence, such a deterrence will fail. I mean, it will impose no this thing on Pakistan, that our will not be imposed on Pakistan in any manner. Plus, we do not have the technological edge that is required, where you can do such things with impunity, like what the United States can do. In recent times, one has not heard of a United States aircraft being brought down, despite number of missiles, air defense missiles, etc., being available with certain groupings or certain areas where they have operated in the past. So they can do such airstrikes or missile strikes with impunity. Now here, we do not have that kind of technological edge, either in missile power or in drones or in air power or in terms of even our naval power. We don't have that kind of an edge that we can do it with impunity. So Pakistan will do a quid pro quo. In any case, all such actions are a two-way street. It's not one way. So in my view, it's very important that something more has to be done. Some ground action has to be done so that the message goes home to Pakistan.
So, to understand this ground action concept, I'd like us to go back to 2001, 2002, to the period after the attack on Parliament House. Operation Parakram was initiated, and very quickly, two armies became bogged down facing each other, where the progress of actually being able to move against Pakistan's heavily dug-in positions did not seem very workable. What were the lessons learned from Parakram, and what did it teach us about trying to punish Pakistan on the ground, as you put it, militarily? Could you talk us through that phase and the lessons learned from that phase?
You see, war is contingent on political directions. Militaries do not initiate wars, and there is in armies of both like India and Pakistan, and after we cater for the northern front with China, are fairly even on the ground. Though we have probably superiority in mechanized forces, etc. Now the window was in the beginning in Parakram, when Pakistan was in disarray. It had forces committed towards Afghanistan. It was going to be bombed to Stone Age. It was under phenomenal pressure. So we had a window, beginning somewhere, around end of December to about first week of January. After that, Pakistan was able to, harness its resources, mobilize, and then the international opinion started thinking of stepping in, United States and all, putting pressure on us. So there was a window, and it's difficult to say what happened. It could be, because it's not in public domain. Were political directions given? Did the military dither in any manner because of lack of preparedness? Particularly as far as the Northern Command is concerned. So we do not know. There's much speculation in the air that there was a political go-ahead given, and our mobilization was delayed, and there was what should I say, representation raised by Northern Command that, look, we are not ready. And examples were given of 1971 war, where Sam had forced a delay. So all those things are there. It lies in the realm of speculation, but thereafter it became a stalemate.
So that narrow window of opportunity basically closed because the Pakistanis then had time to push forward.
Yes, they had time to push forward. And let's not forget that by this time, both countries were declared nuclear weapon states.
Right.
And though, mind you, at that time, the delivery systems were not uh, fully developed, command and control was hazy. So it was still a good window, it was still a good opportunity. The second opportunity came when the strike took place first on the Jammu Pathankot highway, and then at the Kaluchak,
Right, sir.
families of service personnel were killed. So that time there was second window. Again, there was international pressure, etc. So things didn't happen. So I think it was a combination of a bit of delayed mobilization, uh, little reluctance on part of the military, and probably, as I said, we do not know whether a political decision was actually given or not given.
The interesting thing about deterrence on that occasion is that on the one hand, we failed, but on the other, a dialogue started between President Pervez Musharraf, General Musharraf, and first between Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. And there is a ceasefire on the line of control, and things start to get better in Kashmir because the supply line of jihadists is kind of, maybe the tap is not fully turned off, but it is half turned off or a quarter turned off. Do you think Pakistan concluded that, look, even if there is no war, this continuous crisis on the border is not in the interests of our economy, is not in the interests of our people? So, in a way, coercion worked?
I think there were multiple reasons. One was that um, President Musharraf, was trying to cut a sort of a niche for himself in history by being a statesman after having been a soldier, and and then, mind you, at the same time, in the period of 2001, 2, and 3 was the peak period of the insurgency in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right.
So there was no let up in Jammu and Kashmir as far as Pakistan's proxy war is concerned.
Absolutely.
So, but the very fact that both countries had come together, America was deeply involved in Afghanistan, and Pakistan was for logistics was very important to United States. So I think all these factors, and as I said, plus the desire of both the people of both the country, and for that matter, the political leadership, which says that it's time to come to terms with each other. So all these factors combined, and that's why those talks took place, and we almost reached an agreement. But then, as soon as Musharraf was ousted, so it ended, and plus there was probably pressure from the army, Pakistan army, for which Kashmir is what is called the reason for its existence, raison d'être, or whatever how you pronounce it. So it is the reason for its existence. So I think thereafter it varies from the mind of the chief, one who realizes like General Bajwa had sent the peace dove towards us in one or two times when he spoke. So all these things are there, but the corps commanders as a whole have never really given up this idea that they have to somehow take revenge for 1971 for being dismembered. And one of the ways of taking the revenge, plus the primordial reason for Jammu and Kashmir, is to usurp Jammu and Kashmir, or at least the Muslim majority areas of Jammu and Kashmir.
So let's come to the second example after that, sir. This peace process gives some hope. Unfortunately, it goes nowhere. General Keani becomes Pakistan's army chief. And right afterwards, we have the tragic events in Mumbai, the tragic terrorist attacks. The story there is that General Deepak Kapoor, who was asked by the Prime Minister, are we ready for war? And he said, no, I cannot guarantee success in the course of a war. Now, this is again speculation. Neither party has discussed this. But was that a second case where deterrence could have been effectively used? The world was on India's side. but we just didn't have the resources to do it effectively.
Okay, I just want to go back a little. There was one, very few people talk about it, but there was one plan known as Operation Kabaddi.
Sure.
No, this was conceived sometimes in the year 2001. And I remember that I was still a brigade commander and I was commanding the Batalic sector post-Kargil war. So there was a plan that we are going to carry out operations across the line of control. And it will be all across the front. And we will make reasonable gains. And the planes will be kept quiet. And it will just be that we will exercise hot pursuit, because terrorism was at its peak, as I said, in 2001. That we'll exercise the right of hot pursuit, and we will do a kind of movement of the front forward. But so this was all scheduled for October, I think, sometimes. But then 9/11 happened, and the whole thing once again, got scuttled. 2008, I was still an army commander. When 26/11 happened, I was in the Central Army. There were no consultations with the army commanders of any kind. So
that's quite a revelation, sir. Yeah.
Whatever for this thing, whatever happened was between the chief and the government. I think it is. It's the issue here was again not of going for all-out war. There was also, we could have still at that time, the Indian Air Force was superior. And let me tell you that in 2002 for Operation Parakram, Indian Army was at its strongest ever as compared to Pakistan. And the reforms which were begun, in 1986 had been completed even then by partially, but about 75%. And we were at our strongest ever vis-a-vis Pakistan. That is 2002. That was, as I said, Parakram was an opportunity lost, certainly. But 2008, we were still very strong, and especially Air Force. Our Air Force at that time was far superior, to Pakistan. So one doesn't know again as to what happened. Like you said, it's again in the realm of speculation, whether the army dithered or the government dithered. But the fact is that we chose not to exercise this option, and we continued with strategic restraint. I think there were gains to be obtained, and this was more in the international arena, diplomatically. So there were gains made, but we could not carry out any punitive action.
So then we come to 2008, which you've discussed, described as shallow thrusts across the line of control.
2001. That was Operation Kabaddi, 2001.
No, so coming to that, we got, 2000, after the Uri strikes, an opportunity to practice that. There were these so-called surgical strikes, where a number of shallow attacks were staged across the line of control. But Pakistan wasn't deterred, in the sense that, yes, after the Uri episode, they did not stage any more terrorist attacks in India outside Jammu and Kashmir. So no more Pathankot attacks, no more Gurdaspur attacks. But they escalated within the Kashmir Valley quite sharply, with a lot of Fidain attacks on our service personnel. Was that because the shallow strikes, or the surgical strikes as they are called, were not enough to deter Pakistan? Or was it simply that Pakistan felt that, having been attacked, it needed to escalate the stakes?
You see, I think the 2016 strikes were more symbolic in nature. That up to that time, whatever actions we had taken across the line of control were covert. There were actions, many actions, and they were covert, and they were not talked about.
So you knew them, the other side knew them, the public
Yes,
was
yes,
not
yes.
involved.
Everybody knew them, and in fact, they were very intense during the period between '99 and 2003. Well, that was the period they were at their peak, and on and off here and there, even later they did take place. They were again small scale of operations and nothing very substantial. Now, but now that we were doing it overtly, so and with a declared intent. So it was symbolic in nature that here we have done this, and and we will do it in case you do not stop these actions. But then, so that operation was a very small operation, a low-end tactical operation where the para commandos went in about 1.5 kilometers and supposedly fired at a number of launch pads, which in reality are no more than a man and a dog position, because it's a few huts and they just come and rest there, and thereafter they,
Pack up and move.
and move. So it is not something that there's a camp there. But symbolically, it was a successful operation and declared operation. But we didn't follow it up. So next time anything happened, because Pakistan kept the operations at a low ebb, so those were taken as routine and they were not considered worthy as a follow up or take the risk of doing something. So it just continued. So no deterrence was imposed on Pakistan in any manner.
This is a very fascinating point, sir, because it's the opposite of many people's thinking on this topic. And of course, this brings us to Balakot, where we felt compelled to do something bigger, but didn't get the results one would have hoped to get in terms of impact on the adversary. Without holding out any blame for anyone, I mean, things go wrong in war. Missiles don't always land where they are supposed to land. Friendly fire happens. All these things happen. If everything had worked as it should have worked, would a single airstrike have had deterrent value in preventing further strikes on Pakistan? Or would Pakistan have felt the need to escalate to secure its own strategic autonomy at that point?
You see, again, the target chosen was isolated kind of a terrorist seminary or training area, which was absolutely isolated, and probably the intent was not to cause collateral damage. See, any kind of a surgical strike must be very credible. You got to present irrefutable evidence, and it should be seen on the ground. So instead of choosing that target, if we had, let's say, hypothetically, struck Muridke,
right,
and raised the Lashkar-e-Taiba's establishment to the ground, that's a kind of a visible strike which will have a meaning. So this strike, the evidence presented by us and the reasons given were very, 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 very ambiguous. So, in my view, I don't think it imposed any kind of deterrence. Then on 26th itself, and then what happened on 27th is that which Pakistan demonstrated that again that war is a two-way street, and we do not anymore have the kind of technological edge or superiority to do anything with impunity. In fact, I remember the Pakistan ISPR spokesman saying that we will retaliate and just wait. So next day they prepared, and you must grant it to them that they carried out a symbolic attack at Nowshera. Symbolic. But the main aim was the aerial ambush that they were laying.
Sir.
And close to the line of control. And for reasons inexplicable, we did not send forward our Su-30s because we probably were outranged by the missiles the F-16 was carrying. Our electronic warfare was not up to what, not matching what Pakistan was capable of doing. And the rules that they had organized, in the end, what happened is that we lost one aircraft, our pilot was captured, the debris of aircraft fell in Pakistan. We claim to have shot, Pakistani F-16, but we could present no evidence for it. So I would say, and then as a collateral damage elsewhere, we shot our shot down our own
helicopter.
Mi-17 helicopter, losing 8 airmen. Well, that was an error of judgment, but nonetheless, it happened. Okay, so we had 2 aircraft down. We could not present evidence for the Pakistani aircraft shot down, which I believe the air chief, when he says that we have brought it down, we had technical evidence, but we could present no evidence, physical evidence. So again, see what happened after 2019. It didn't deter Pakistan. It continued doing what it was doing. So even the credibility of the deterrent was as I would say, of the strikes was rather low, and damage was not substantial. Had on the second day we done what Pakistan did, and we had brought their 3-4 aircraft down, or we had that kind of superiority, you take it from me, terrorism in India would have stopped. But Pakistan, what did Pakistan learn from this? That we have enough wherewithal, that we can match India, and we will continue with whatever we are doing. Our strategy won't change.
So then the obvious question, sir, which brings us to now, is what kind of actions would effectively deter the Pakistan army from doing what it's doing? And I ask this question because, as you have pointed out on numerous occasions, India's armed forces are in a very difficult position. For the last decade and more, funding in real terms has been eroding. Many modernization programs have stalled. Plus, there is the demand of guarding the border with China, which continues to be an issue. So you have financially strapped armed forces with many programs running behind or not having things that the military would like to have. Do we have a deterrent option at our in our arsenal, or do we need to start developing one?
You see, these are political decisions, and in any situation, even if we had all the wherewithal, the decision to go to war is a very, very, very difficult one, and any prime minister would take it very, with very, very reluctantly. Very reluctantly. He would. I'm not saying it's whosoever may have been the prime minister, he will take it very, very, very reluctantly, and you have to give very careful thought, because the cost of the war, the international repercussions, effect on your economy, and then a reverse. The biggest deterrent from taking deterrent that from taking a political decision for war is the fear amongst the political class the world over is what happens if it's a setback,
right?
And that's got political consequences. So it's a difficult decision. That's one. Number two, see, war is a two-way street. So if there is Pakistan armed forces are as professional as us, while they may be radicalized, whatever they may be, but they are professional forces. They are just like, I would say they are just like us. In fact, before Zia did what he did, Zia-ul Haq, he said that Pakistan army is that you could have. He said, I didn't know whether I walked into an Indian army mess or a Pakistan army mess. So it is a mirror image. So I would say it's a fairly professional army. So war is a two-way street. So no matter how superior you are, Russia was so superior, and then they realized within 3 days, 4 days, that it virtually had to start from scratch all over again.
Right.
I mean, this is a dilemma on the mind of the profession. Now, the dilemma for the armed forces, a similar dilemma is there, because you have you have prepared for all eventualities, and you have prepared with what you have, and what you have is what the government gives you. And if you have not pointed out to the government in your earlier stages, look, I sort of with this much what I have, and this is what I had asked for, I haven't got, I can only do this much. If you have not had the moral courage to point this out, then you are also a very scared hierarchy.
Right.
Right. So now, having said that, yes, the budget has been the lowest with relation to the GDP, but the GDP has gone up substantially.
Right.
Let's not forget that. So 2% of the GDP, if we compare to 63, would have been little at that time. We had gone up to 4, also 5, also at times. But 2% of GDP in 2014 onwards is a lot. Okay, so it's not that our defense budget has gone down in any manner.
Right.
Yes, whatever we have asked for, we haven't got. Whatever the Air Force has asked for, hasn't got. Our transformation is way behind schedule, and the kind of edge that we had over Pakistan back in 2002, as I said, in Operation Parakram, when we were at our strongest, has got diminished, but is still there. Now, in combination, it can manifest more in ground operations than it can do in terms of surgical strikes and a limited action across the line of control.
What is the risk that even limited ground operations of the kind you're envisaging can escalate up towards the nuclear threshold, sir? Because I'm sure planners will be extremely concerned about that possibility.
You see, the dilemma, it will exactly be the same for Pakistan as it is for us. After all, Pakistan has been perpetrating terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir for long. So it also has tried to balance this out and say, okay, look, it should not reach a stage when we have to go to war. Now, in Kashmir, there is ongoing action, right? And we are at the LAC. Troops are already there. Hot pursuit. And the reason that the terrorist bases are across and they are coming from there and nowhere else offers you international justification. So in the window that you will have for war before nuclear weapons come into play is most in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, as far as the planes are concerned, our mechanized forces are far more and better than Pakistan's in quality and quantity. And so is our artillery. I'm talking of the main things.
Right.
Air power in such a situation, we have got our numbers we've got good numbers. So what I have suggested in my article is that it's an option. Of course, it all depends. It will depend how the military advises the government and what the government's decision is. That Kashmir-centric operations, strategic defense in the plains, and if Pakistan does want to do anything, then make it pay the price in the plain, because our superiority is far greater. And in Jammu and Kashmir, conduct operations where we are in a position of advantage in certain areas where we are sitting on top and they are at the bottom. Number of such areas are there, and try and move the LAC westwards. And it can be moved substantially. I would say it can be moved as far away as 10 to 15 kilometers, which is a lot in mountains. Of course, Pakistan also has similar opportunities available, but I mentioned, and I repeatedly mentioned this earlier in our dialogue, that it's a two-way street. It cannot work one way.
And here I come to my final question, sir, which is about the public. Many of these discussions, including the one we have been having right now, are confined to some narrow circles in the strategic community or in various think tanks and so on and so forth. People in the public are often given the impression on social media that, Arey, we can take POK in 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and we can, go to Aksai Chin also in half a day, and not adequately told about the costs that a nation must pay when it makes the decision to go to war, that it involves treasure, and most important, it involves the lives of our young men. Do you think our leaders have had a responsible conversation with the public, preparing them to bear the costs of such a conflict in the long-term national interest?
No, I'm afraid not. In fact, we have done exactly the opposite. With neo-nationalism, has been the most predominant thing particularly for the last 11 years of the present government, and the people's expectations have been sky high. We have gone back into 5,000 years of our history to dig out our victories, etc. Though as I maintain, in 1,000 years, our most annual victory was 1971 war. I wrote about that. So, however, the expectations are sky high. There's a Pew survey carried out, in which more than 60% Indians believed that not only we can defeat Pakistan, we can defeat China. And we can carry out a battle on two fronts. I mean, this was a Pew survey carried out in India. So the expectations of the people are sky high. In fact, I wrote almost 7-8 years ago that the kind of this nationalism, neo-nationalism that we are advocating and raising the hopes of people, the government will be in a strategic decision-making bind.
Right.
That it will lose its flexibility.
Because
you have, on one hand, we are telling the public that we are the strongest government ever. And then we end up, with the, low-end diplomatic actions or low-end, strikes across the line of control. So this is certainly going to be a problem. The expectations of the public are too high. Nobody has the moment one has raised the issue of capabilities about the armed forces, the branding of you being anti-national is the first thing. I have been attacked so many times, and I highlighted this thing. I used to write for the News Laundry earlier. In 2016, I highlighted that we are losing our edge over Pakistan, and that's why Pakistan is working with impunity. So, but still, I would still say that I'm very confident. As a former army commander, I'm extremely confident that if we take a political decision, we can punish Pakistan and deter it from entering Kashmir once and for all. I mean, I've been the Northern Army commander, and we were capable of doing it then, and we are capable of doing it even now. Well, only thing is, of course, one is not out of touch with what's the situation on the ground, but the military will give its advice, and the Prime Minister, as I said, has got a very difficult decision to make. Very difficult decision to make, and one can only offer one's support to him, irrespective of political affiliations, irrespective of what has been happening, in the last 11 years politically. At the moment, the person in the hot seat is the Prime Minister, and it is his decision, and he requires our support.
General Panag, with those words, thank you so much for offering this very, very lucid analysis of the situation as it stands now, and unusually for sticking your head out and actually offering a strategy for a path forward to actually deliver these punitive costs, which is where these conversations often get derailed. I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you once again for your time.